You're listening to the Bloodshed Baddies. Okay, let's start that over. Now that my microphone's on. Hi, I'm Lex.
And I'm Sam.
And we are the Bloodshed Baddies.
You know it, baddies.
Hello, baddie crew.
What up?
So, Sam.
So, Lex.
I am reading a book right now.
Oh?
And it is called Playing Dead by Elizabeth Greenwood.
Oh?
And it's a woman who is studying death fraud. And it's really interesting. I really like it. So, have you ever thought about faking your own death?
No, but as I'm sitting here thinking about it right now, could I tell you my plan?
Yes. Yes, we were going to get to that. My next question was going to be, do you think there would ever be a reason in your life that you would want to fake your own death?
I mean, as of like this moment in my life, no, but like say in the future, like I witness something, I'm in line to get my little Starbies and I witness like a mafia shootout thing, then maybe, yeah, I would.
Yeah. So I was asking Dustin about this and Dustin's like, no. But I think like as a woman, if I were to ever get in like a horribly abusive relationship and this was the only
Yes.
way out, that's like a way that I could see actually faking my own death. Okay. How would you do it? What's your plan?
Okay, I feel like what I would do is, and this is almost like the case that keeps you up at night. I forget which one, the name of it.
Moira Murray.
Yeah, where I would like drive my car somewhere to some wooded area and I would like leave the lights on and I would even maybe like take some of my blood with an IV and like splash it on, or like, cut myself with a knife, splash the blood around.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Lexi's approving this. And then I would, it would have to depend on the elements because I would have to make sure it's not snowing and people can see like my footprints and stuff. I'd have to make sure no one's around. It's dark. I'd have to leave my cell phone, my debit card. I would maybe like throw some things, like maybe someone stole me and I was like thrashing away, and I would just probably go from there. I would have the money hidden already, cash, like in the woods with a change of clothes and like a wig, maybe some hair dye.
You've never thought about this before, have you?
I possibly would have a lighter and burn my fingertips. I think that's a pretty good elaborate plan.
I think it's a pretty decent, elaborate plan.
I need to hear your plan, and I need to know if you ever thought about this before.
Well, so I think that and this is going to be my next question for you. I don't think I've ever thought about faking my own death, but I think I have thought about like, what if I just ran away, changed my name, and did something completely different than I do right now? Like left the stress of it all, went and lived on an island somewhere and sold alcoholic drinks out of coconuts on the beach.
I've definitely had that thought in my head. Like, oh, this is not the life for me.
I don't really have a thought out plan. I did learn a lot from this book. I'm only like probably 2/3 of the way through. And drowning is not a good way to do it because most like pretending you drowned, because most bodies actually end up washing up, which I didn't know. So it's actually like the most suspicious if you pretend to drown and your body is never found.
I feel like that makes sense. And that would be hard anyways. Like you'd have to have a boat on standby. You know what I mean? Like it'd be more challenging.
Yes. So I think like I would definitely have to get in touch with somebody who could get me a new passport and get me a fake ID. Like I'd want to be able to like go establish a life somewhere else. I'd probably honestly go to like an island or like Europe, somewhere over there, like go live on the Italian coast and do something like be a waitress or something under the table or something just like super easy and like live in a small house and not, have worries. I have worries, but different worries than I have now. Yeah, so I think I'd want to like live on like the Italian coast somewhere and have a super easy job like waitressing or babysitting or
Yes.
nannying and just like live a simple life.
I would love a simple life. However, I feel like even if you ran away, like simple lives just don't exist.
Yeah, probably not. But it's the fantasy. Yeah, it's the fantasy.
For sure, for sure.
Okay, what are we getting into today?
All right. I'm actually really excited for this one, and I feel like your intro somewhat ties in a little bit. So we'll see how.
What are you doing?
All right. So I'll start off by saying this is a different case than usual. It's still true crime, but no one gets murdered. Woohoo!
Woo!
I saw this online, and personally, like, I've never heard of it before, but I do live under a rock. So, could be why. I was pumped to look more into it and bring it to you and the Podlex. I do want to point out that there are many, many, many people out there who are very passionate about this case. So, like, please don't come at me if I leave anything out or anything like that. I'm giving just like a shorter version of all that's out there, and all my sources will be linked as well. But are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, today I'm going to tell you baddies about the case of D.B. Cooper.
Shut up. She talks about him in the book.
Really?
Yes.
It ties in, baddies. That was so good and not planned.
That's wild.
That makes me so excited. Was that your first time hearing about it?
No.
You've heard of D.B. Cooper before?
Yes, I think they did it years and years ago on My Favorite Murder.
Oh, okay. It's
Yeah.
I'd never heard of it before, and it is so intriguing. So intriguing. So, baddies, if this is your first time like me, I hope I do it justice. Let's go back to the afternoon of November 24th, 1971. And it's actually Thanksgiving Eve. So the day before Thanksgiving, yum yum turkey. A man going by the name Dan Cooper walks up to a desk at the Portland, take it away, Lex,
Oregon.
Oregon airport. Don't want to say it wrong and offend the Dusty fans. He went to Northwest Orient Airlines and purchased a one-way ticket for Flight 305 to Seattle, Washington. This would be a super short flight of about 30 minutes. Also, Lex, guess how much this flight was?
I don't even want to know. Like $5.
A little bit more than that. $20.
Oh my God.
I wish. Flights are way too expensive right now. But Cooper pays for it in cash. Now, let us all think about how this is pre 9/11. So there's no security or identity checks for flights like there are now. Like it was literally like getting on a subway or train. He just walked up, purchased a ticket, and went to board the plane, not having to go through security or anything like that at all.
That's so wild.
I can't imagine. Because we didn't fly until after that, right?
No, but I remember like going to pick up Aunt Dina from her. No, we flew before that because when we went to Disney when I was in fourth grade.
Oh,
And
okay.
9/11 happened in fifth grade. But I remember like going to pick Aunt Dina up from her honeymoon and like we just like walked back and were there like right when she got off the plane.
It's so wild. Dan Cooper was a white male, about 6'1", around 170 to 175 pounds, and was in his mid-40s. He had an olive complexion, brown eyes, and black hair that was like a conventional cut parted on the left side. He also would be wearing a darker suit with a black tie, which a lot of people wore around this time when flying, and some people still do, so it's not like he would have stood out or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Cooper boards the plane, which is a 727 Boeing, and he gets an aisle seat near the rear. I believe seat 18E, although some people say like 19, but around there. For a reference, a 727 plane is a mid-sized plane with 3 engines. It is T-tailed and designed for short-haul routes. But anyway, Cooper sits down and lights a cigarette and then orders a bourbon and soda.
Oh my God, you're smoking on a plane. That's insane. Holy shit. Let me just light this ciggy on a enclosed area where everybody's stuck breathing it.
Isn't that wild?
Mm-hmm.
There are 36 other passengers on this plane, and I believe like 6 crew members. The pilot is Captain William Scott. The plane takes off at 2:50 p.m., and at around 3 p.m., his flight attendant comes around and he hands a note to her. Her name was Florence Schaefer. She was 23 years old. So I believe that she doesn't read the note right away. She assumes it's a phone number. As a flight attendant, I'm sure this isn't the first time, especially in the 70s.
I was gonna say, especially back then, that's when they were like known to be super sexy.
Why do you say it like that?
I kind of choked on my own spit when I started to say it, and then it got real weird.
Oh my God. So sexy. Okay. And she just puts it in her pocket or like wherever. She just puts it away and doesn't look at it. And at one point, Cooper is like, you should really read that note. So she opens it up and reads, quote, I have a bomb in my briefcase. I want you to sit next to me.
I'd be like, why'd I open it?
And it's written in all caps. So, of course, Florence goes and sits there because what are you going to do? And when she sits down, she is a baddie and actually asks to see the bomb. And in one source, it said she called the other flight attendant, Tina Mucklow, over to see it as well. But Cooper opens his like cheaper briefcase and there are wires and like colored sticks in there and it clearly looks like a bomb.
Okay.
Again, I would be like, what the heck? I just wanted to get through the workday and now this is my life.
Yes.
Anyway, Cooper then tells her the rest of his demands, and I believe she writes it down to take it to the captain, and he takes his note back. But Cooper says he's demanding $200,000 in $20 bills and 4 parachutes, 2 front ones and 2 back ones, to be delivered on landing at the SeaTac airport, which is the Seattle airport. He also wants the plane to refuel and like have it ready to refuel. Cooper then is like, if there's any funny business, I'll do the job, meaning he'll use the bomb on the plane. This is the first person in United States history that hijacked a plane for ransom. So the pilot and workers obviously notify police and such of what is happening, and then police and airline staff start scrambling to get all of this assembled since he has a bomb on a plane with a bunch of passengers. As the police and staff are scrambling, the pilots have to fly in circles above Seattle because remember, this is supposed to be a short flight and they don't want to land without his demands met because like who knows what would happen.
Oh my God. And could you imagine you're like on that flight? It's supposed to be a half hour and you're just like circling. You'd be like, what the fuck is going on? Everybody looks worried.
Literally. And they end up telling them that, they end up telling the passengers that they are having a mechanical issue and they have to like burn fuel before landing for whatever reason. So
no, that would give me even more anxiety. I'd be like, this plane is going down.
But they are not aware that it's being held at ransom right now. So they actually have to call the president of the airline to get authorization for the ransom because apparently like that's who does it and has the okay with it. Like the police don't like give the money. Like they have to call the president of the airline.
Okay.
And he authorizes it and tells all the employees, like, don't do anything stupid. Just do what Cooper demands. Like, it's your life. Don't do anything stupid. So they get the money from him and they get the parachutes from a local skydiving school. Now, remember, like I said, this was supposed to be a half-hour flight, but after 2 to 3.5 hours, I've seen a couple in each source, in the air, the 727 finally lands.
I would be having a legit heart attack.
I'm sure people were angry. This is like the day before Thanksgiving. It's supposed to be a half-hour flight. This is just like flying in circles around the airport.
I would lose my mind.
I can't imagine you on the plane. What is happening?
Like, it's going down. It's going down. They're just delaying it. It's going down. We're all going to die.
Same though. Internally, that would be me. Upon landing, Dan Cooper asks to close all the window shades so no snipers could get to him. Cooper then receives his money and parachutes and then releases all 36 passengers and 2 of the 6 crew members. They actually have to take like a bus to the terminal, and they also actually don't even know their plane was hijacked until they get to the airport. Can you imagine getting off this bus like in a bad mood and then you find out like, oh my God, there was a bomb on this plane and we were being hijacked?
I'd be like, I'll never fly in Spirit again.
It's not Spirit. It's Northwest Airlines.
I was just assuming it was Spirit.
Most things happen on Spirit.
Because I am never flying Spirit again. Because they canceled 2 of my flights in a row.
Spirit, don't ask us to be a sponsor because Lexi would go crazy.
No. No.
The plane then refuels upon Cooper's request, and he instructs the crew to take off towards Mexico City with like very specific instructions. He's like, keep the plane at a low altitude of 10,000 feet, along with other specifics like cabin pressure and whatnot.
I would be so upset if other crew members got to go home and I had to be the one to stay.
Yeah, I'd be like terrified.
I'd be like, excuse me, why couldn't I have been released? What is it about me that makes you think I want to be on this plane with you?
There are also storms going on with like really high winds around this time. So they actually discuss and decide together, like the pilot and Cooper and the crew, that they should stop in Reno, Nevada to refuel the plane once more. So that's the plan.
Okay. Glad they're all on the same page.
The flight takes off around 7:40 p.m. And as the flight takes off, some fighter jets do follow the plane, but because it's like so low altitude and going like so slow, like they have to like fly around. You know, it's not like it's like they're on their tail the whole time.
Uh-huh.
Now, during the first leg of this flight, all of a sudden, around 8 p.m., as the plane flew over the Lewis River in southwest Washington, the crew felt their ears pop, and a warning light appears in the cabin where the crew's at. So as the crew's in the cockpit, Cooper lowered the rear stairs on the plane. And I think because of what the president said, the crew's actually like, do you need help with that, sir?
Can I help you lower the stairs and open the plane in the middle of the air?
And Cooper's like, no, thank you. So like very bizarre.
Great. I didn't want to help anyway.
And everyone, like all of the crew that encountered him were like obviously, yes, he was like threatening us, but like he was actually so polite. So he's like a polite hijacker. But then around 8:13 p.m., Cooper parachutes out of the plane, Alexis.
It's so wild.
Also, do we remember how there were like pretty bad thunderstorms and high winds? These winds were like 100-mile-per-hour winds.
And he parachutes?
Yeah. And at the 10,000-foot altitude that the plane was flying at, the temperatures would have been below zero.
Oh my God. So it's cold, windy, and you're just like
parachuting.
Your parachute's blowing everywhere. You're like, ah!
Also, this man was wearing only wraparound sunglasses, a thin suit, and a raincoat. Cooper took with him his suitcase, backpack, and cash, which would have been like 25 pounds in those increments of $20 bills. He allegedly took apart one of the parachutes and like tied the money and whatnot around his waist.
He made his own fanny pack with a parachute.
Fashion forward. So 2 hours later, the plane lands at around 10:15 at the scheduled Reno stop. And there's FBI and cops there like all ready to go to arrest him because, of course, they didn't know this man's like jumped out of the plane.
Literally jumped out of a plane. Yeah.
Yes. Now, in the wake of the hijacking, the Boeing 727 installed what they're called Cooper vanes, which is a latch that prevents the opening of the back stairs mid-flight. So if you baddies are thinking about pulling a Cooper, you can't. But this storm prevented an immediate capture. And after a massive search, there is no trace of Dan Cooper whatsoever, or the parachutes, or the money. The placard from the stairs was found around Silver Lakes in Washington. Now, the media, of course, runs wild with this because, like, what the actual poo is happening? And they are the reason why it's D.B. Cooper and not Dan Cooper, because they accidentally misprinted the name because they were talking, like, calling people through telephones to say, like, hey, what was this guy's name to the airline? And because of the thunderstorms, they misunderstood them and wrote D.B. Cooper instead of Dan Cooper. So that's why he's famously known as D.B. Cooper.
That's wild. How does that even sound? That's whatever. That's not important.
But of course, also, Dan Cooper was just an alias anyways and not his real name. He used a fake name.
Yeah.
Investigators didn't have much to go on. DB Cooper was smart and took his ransom note back, so investigators couldn't investigate his handwriting. He did leave behind some cigarette butts, hair on the head seat, and a clip-on necktie, which he took off before jumping out of the plane. But the investigators were not able to find fingerprints, and nothing led them to a specific suspect. At first, they thought DB Cooper was like an advanced skydiver because, like, that's wild.
Because you jumped out of a plane with a backpack, a suitcase, and money in a -degree thunderstorm. Yeah, I would think so too.
But then they changed their mind. And I think some of them changed their mind. Because they were like, hold up, no experienced skydiver would jump out in the pitch black in a thunderstorm with those kind of winds with just loafers and a trench coat on.
Yeah. This guy's insane.
Now, the investigation was called NORJAC for Northwest Hijacking. And by the 5-year anniversary, they put out that they interviewed hundreds of people, tracked leads across the nation, sourced the aircraft for evidence, and considered more than 800 suspects and eliminated all but 24 from consideration. NORJAC will also try to recreate the hijacking, although there are so many factors to play, it almost seems like impossible. Like when he jumped, when he opened his chute, like the storms, the winds.
Yeah, you can't really recreate that at all.
No, but they try, and they actually use the same captain.
Could you imagine? Let me re-traumatize you. You just relive this trauma so we can figure out where you might be.
I didn't think of it like that, and that's actually pretty terrible. If you think about it, they hopefully compensated him for his time very nicely.
Yeah, could you imagine you're like one of the most traumatic things that ever happened to you, and they're like, let's replay it for fun this time, though. I'll be like, find someone else. I can't do that again. I don't know if I can ever drive a plane again, much less drive a plane where you're pretending to hijack it.
So true. Through their recreation, though, they believe Cooper could have landed on the Victor Air corridor between battlefields and orchards and nearby farmland, but basically just close to woodland in Washington. Several notes were also sent to the FBI claiming to be DB Cooper, and they do find the possibility of some of the notes maybe being credible. One is from a cut up newspaper, and it says, "Thanks for the hospitality." And then another one said the composite sketch doesn't represent the truth. One letter had information, I guess, that wasn't out to the public, and it was almost like a manifesto, and it said that he altered his appearance with shoe polish for the hair and messed with his face a little bit. And I do believe the flight attendant said that it possibly looked like he was wearing makeup, so maybe there's some truth to that. He also said he'd come and gone on many flights after since then, but had only 14 months to live. There was a signature, but it was redacted when it was shared with public. But again, there was no evidence pointing at these notes that they were legit.
And you got to think that is prime for people to take advantage of that and send silly letters. And
yes, because everyone kind of wants to be this cool guy who jumped out of a plane and got money. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Now, 9 years later, in 1980, so 9 years from the hijacking, an 8-year-old child named Brian Ingram was playing in the sand on the banks of Washington's Columbia River. He discovered some rotting $20 bills in the sand. The total of these $20 bills that he found was $5,800.
That's a lot of money.
It is. Can you imagine your little 8-year-old coming up, look what I found in the sand, and it's $5,800 in $20 bills?
I'd be like, well, baby, where were you going to dinner tonight? You get to pick.
So Brian's parents are a little bit better than Lexi because they contact the police right away. And through that, they learned that these $20 bills match the money given to DB Cooper.
Whoa.
Yes. Now, remember, he was given $200,000 and only $5,800 was found. So not the whole slump. But Brian was allowed to keep $2,760 of it.
Well, what a weird number. You can keep $2,768 of this.
And in 2008, he actually sold 15 of those $20 bills for $37,433.38.
Now that's a fucking business, man.
Go,
that
Brian.
Kid is going places.
Yes.
Or has gone places. Who knows?
It is interesting to note, though, that not another single bill from the ransom has appeared in circulation, despite the notes on the serial numbers being shared with banks across the United States.
Oh, maybe he used them outside the United States.
Very possible. And also in a podcast I listened to called Hitch to Homicide, which was pretty good. I like them. They're cute. The husband mentions that DB Cooper seemed like a really intelligent man. And is it possible he maybe buried some of that money to throw off the investigation? And I'm like, honestly, I could see that.
Oh, maybe. Maybe he was like landed over there. He's like, put some money in the ground. Someone will find it one day and they'll never know I went to Panama.
Yeah, like that's what I thought. I was like, oh, that's actually a pretty good theory. But in 2016, the FBI agency officially closed Norjack, citing a lack of credible new evidence, and recently released files do not identify a definitive suspect. Cooper's identity remains unknown, making this the only unsolved hijacking case in the history of commercial aviation.
Yeah, I guess like most hijackers don't parachute off the plane in the middle of a thunderstorm and say, see ya.
So let's get to some theories.
Yes, 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 yes.
Now, I need to say there are so many theories out there. The podcast I listened to had some different theories than I'm going to bring up. So if you are into this, you should go and listen. And if you are like super into this, there's a podcast called The Cooper Vortex, also linked, that literally has like over 100 episodes with theories and all things DB Cooper. So I think go and listen if you love it. I unfortunately did not have enough time, obviously. And this would become like a 7-parter. And I think Lex would probably quit the podcast. So I did not do all of them. So I want to start with like the 5 main people of like me that have been on the radar of other people, of course, that other people think it could be. But as along with Betty's, we want to hear your thoughts, Lex.
Oh, yes, my thoughts. I was just waiting for you to say the first one.
Robert Rackstraw is someone's name who has been thrown into the mix. He was actually a pilot and a former paratrooper. So he was experienced in skydiving and in military, which many believe was the case. And honestly, I could see that. But he also had a lot on his record. He had grand theft on his record, writing $75,000 in bad checks, and even was a possible suspect in the murder of his stepfather. And that's just to name a few.
Oh, this guy seems like a stand-up guy. Also, if you steal a plane, is it Grand Theft Auto? Grand Theft Plano?
Plano? It's got to be something like that. Or I think...
Or is it just hijacking?
No, I think it's...
Stealing a plane is a form of grand theft.
Oh, there we go. Love it. And that's just to name a few. He was actually acquitted of the murder charge, but then this man's tried to fake his own death in 1978 and spent 2 years in prison for check fraud and theft of an aircraft.
Wait. So the DB Cooper jumped in 1971 and this guy got convicted of faking his own death in 1978?
He tried to fake his own death in 1978, yep.
So why do we think he's DB Cooper? That's 7 years after the fact.
That's a good point, but I think it's because he's this pilot, this paratrooper. I think a lot of people like him because of his record.
Okay.
Which I don't think is the best reason.
I just feel it. So my thing is, you jump out of a plane in 1971.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden you come back as the person you were and then try to fake your death again in 1978.
True. I do think like a lot of the people I'm going to say, a lot of people think that they just did the name DB Cooper and like parachuted off this plane to like get the money and continue living their lives.
Okay.
Work with me. He allegedly would like never say if he was or he wasn't DB Cooper when someone asked him. And he unfortunately dies July 9th, 2019. We heard Lexi's thoughts. It does seem like a favorite for some people that this man's is one of the main contenders. However, I do think that it's mainly because of his record that he is one. Kenneth Christensen is next on the list. He actually worked for Northwest as a mechanic and as a flight attendant. So he would know the ins and outs of planes on like all sides. He was also a military paratrooper, so had skydiving experience. Now, the year after the hijacking, our boy Kenneth bought a home with cash, even though he had a modest flight attendant salary. On top of that, his brother Lyle claims that on his deathbed in 1994, Kenneth told him, "There's something you should know, but I cannot tell you." And allegedly, his brother went to a private investigator thinking that his brother was DB Cooper, But that's really all I got on Kenny Boy. What are your thoughts, Lex?
That's not enough evidence.
No, definitely not.
Also, if someone on their deathbed was like, you should know something, but I'm not going to tell you, I'd be like, you're fucking dying. You're going to tell me.
What are you gonna do?
Why bring it up? Why bring it up if you're not going to tell me?
True. Maybe they just got scared. The third person in the mix is Sheridan Peterson. So apparently he was suspected a week after the incident, but was not interviewed until like decades later. But Sheridan was a former Boeing employee and worked in the department that actually wrote the flight manual for the Boeing 727 jet, which would obviously make him knowledgeable about the whole plane and those back steps. Sheridan was also an accomplished skydiver and actually worked at the skydiving center that provided the parachutes requested for Cooper's escape.
Okay, that's got some connections there.
Odd. At the time of this hijacking, he said he lived with his wife and family in Nepal, but was not able to show any definitive proof that he didn't travel back for like this hijacking attempt. However, unlike the descriptions, Peterson had blue eyes, not brown, and he was very much known not to smoke, and Cooper chain smoked the whole flight, leaving behind like 8 cigarettes.
Okay. Questions.
Yes.
Did we get any DNA off those cigarettes now, like years and years later? I know obviously not in the 70s.
Nothing has come out saying that they got enough DNA evidence for these cigarette butts. They do, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. They have put out more files since then, but they're still like, we don't really know who it is.
Cool. Next question. You get to cut this out if I'm being stupid and just forgot something from the beginning. Where did he get this money from?
Do we remember that was the $200,000 was ransom from the president of the aviation company?
Okay.
Walter R. Recca is another that many are very fond of. Like if you Google it, it's like probably D.B. Cooper. He was former military, and in the military, he was a paratrooper, so skydiving experience, and then he was an intelligence operative. Now, on his deathbed, he gave his friend Carl Lauren like a notarized letter after his death to say that he was D.B. Cooper, and I believe allowed Lauren his permission to record their phone calls where he shared his story in 2008.
Okay.
Apparently, he also confessed to his niece, and a truck driver actually remembers picking up a man from the location that like Recca said that he was at in his confession. So it kind of matches up there as well. Problem with this, he did not look like that composite sketch at all. And he also said he landed far from where FBI did do the test and where the money was found. But basically, again, there's not enough evidence to prove like that this confession is real and he really did it.
Yeah. I'm not feeling like solid on any of these, to be honest.
No, neither am I. The last suspect, who's also a favorite among many, is Richard McCoy Jr. First, like the others, he was a seasoned skydiver and helicopter pilot. And less than 5 months after the D.B. Cooper incident, hijacking, on April 7th, 1972, McCoy was traveling under a fake name, not his real name. He boarded a Newark, LA flight. Shortly after takeoff, McCoy hands a note to the flight attendant and demands $500,000 and 4 parachutes. Sound familiar?
This is the guy.
Well, he also said he would bomb the plane if he didn't get them. This man then exchanged the passengers for cash and parachutes, and on the way to the next destination, he jumped from the rear stairs.
Stop it right now.
So many similarities. However, could it be a copycat? I feel like that's pretty possible. And apparently, after this D.B. Cooper thing, like we said, people kind of like were like, this man's kind of cool. I guess there was around 12 to 14 people who tried to hijack a plane in the aftermath of this.
Jesus fucking Christ. Okay.
So is it possible he literally just like had a blueprint and tried it out? Or he was like, oh, this was successful for me, I'm going to do it again.
What's this guy's name again? I'm going to Google him. I want to see what he looks like in comparison to this stretch.
Richard McCoy Jr. But McCoy was obviously eventually found and convicted of air piracy and received a 45-year prison sentence. But get this, on August 10th, 1974, McCoy and some fellow inmates hijacked a garbage truck and escaped their Pennsylvania penitentiary.
What?
This man has lived a life. The FBI did track him down 3 months later, but unfortunately a shootout left McCoy dead.
He does kind of look like the sketch. His ears are definitely the same as the sketch, and his nose is pretty long, and his eyebrows are pretty much the same.
That's very interesting because those are like things that would be harder to like alter.
Yeah, the jawline doesn't really match up, but the eyebrows, nose, and ears really look similar to me.
McCoy did have children, Shantae and Richard III, who goes by Rick, and they actually have come out and said that they believe their father could have been D.B. Cooper. The children actually shared a parachute that they found along with a logbook with the FBI, but they waited until their mother passed away to do this. Although in one source, it said that the mom may have confessed that the dad was D.B. Cooper and she helped him. But I only saw it in one source. But the children didn't share the stuff with the FBI, like I said, until much later, until their mother passed away. People do rule him out because they say he was in Utah that Thanksgiving, so nowhere near this. But again, just like all the other ones, there's like no proof of this.
But also, like, Washington isn't that far from Utah, isn't it? They're both like west side.
I am geographically challenged, so I honestly have no idea.
So am I. Washington to Utah. It's only 12 hours in a car.
So it's not bad. If you had it all set up, you could do it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I'm going to put two more theories in the mix now. That one would be he jumped out of the plane and started a new life, just like we were talking about in the beginning of this podcast. And another theory that people think as well would be that he did not survive the jump. The weather was bad. The winds were high. He wasn't dressed appropriately. The gross money was found. Is it possible he died and the body was never found?
You know what I'm going to say about this, Samantha.
Say it again.
Where's the body?
I agree.
You knew areas to search. I don't believe that we wouldn't have found a body.
I agree. And I kind of like the theory of starting a new life, but I also feel like it might be somebody who just did it for money and went back to their life.
I want to believe the starting a new life thing.
I think that's the coolest.
It's definitely the coolest. I also think, like, I don't know. I just like, it's hard for me, probably because I could never do it, to think someone just like hijacks a plane, gets out a lot of money, jumps off, and then like walks home that night.
Yeah. Yes.
It's just, that's hard for me to believe.
That's very true. I don't know what I lean more towards. I think the starting over and starting a new life makes sense, or like running away from something. But I also think that you could argue that it's an experienced skydiver. It's somebody who needed a lot of money. It's somebody who was like, this is the way I'm going to do it.
But how did this person spend their money if they went back to their life?
I mean, truth, because it was never in circulation.
Yeah. But like other countries accept dollars.
US currency, and you can exchange it.
Yeah. Like a lot of smaller islands, and I think like certain places in Mexico, and I know Panama, like there are places you could go spend that money that is not the US, so then it would have never been caught.
All right, I'm leaning more towards starting a new life now.
Yeah, because like I just don't know, why would you take $200,000 and then never spend it?
No, you're right.
And it's not like that means you didn't even put it into a bank.
Yeah. You could never put it in a bank. Yeah, you would have to be like at a restaurant and paying in cash, and like the server never puts it in a bank. Like it'd be very much yes, like
for not one of them, not even like, oh, we found $5 here and $5 there.
Yep.
Like nothing. We found nothing in rotation.
Nope, besides that beach cash.
So then like I guess the other thing would be like, to me, I guess then it would be like he spent the money somewhere, or maybe he did die, and I don't know where the body is. Maybe it.
Yeah, where's the body? Where's the parachutes? Where's the money? Where's the briefcase?
Yeah, something. I don't understand why we never found any of that.
Maybe he did run away. I like it. And actually, in early July 2025, so like not long ago, a 398-page case file was released by the FBI that included hundreds of tips and suspect profiles, including a man who agents noted was confined to a wheelchair. But the man was clearly ruled out. Like in a brief note in the document, an agent wrote, quote, "A man confined to a wheelchair did not hijack the plane in this case," end quote. But it shows that they're going through every lead. You know what I mean?
Yes,
it shows that they're working hard. Also, these documents confirm that the agents examined Cooper's tie, which was left behind on the plane, and found it was covered in more than 100,000 microscopic particles, including rare metals such as, I will say all these wrong, unalloyed titanium, bismuth, and strontium sulfide. These are rare metals, which leads to speculation that Cooper did, in fact, work in a specialized facility, specifically one with connections to Boeing, because those facilities have these rare metals in them.
Oh.
Yes. And now remember, Kenneth Christensen was reported as being a mechanic for Boeing. Sheridan Peterson was a former Boeing employee. Does that make them stronger suspects? Maybe it does. Did a Boeing employee disappear? I'm sure they would be on the list, though, right? It is interesting to note that Richard McCoy Jr. does not appear in any of this newly released material.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And he was the one that I was like the most confident on of the other list.
Me too. I would say me too. Another interesting thing to note is that Cooper did tear up one of the parachutes he was given to create that makeshift bag for the ransom and left parts of this ripped up parachute behind. A woman named Pat Boland, who is now around 64 years old, she was old enough to remember the hijacking, but actually got super into it when the TV series Mad Men was approaching their finale. Remember Mad Men?
Yeah, I never watched it, though.
Oh, it's so good, guys. You should watch it. It's so weird, but it's so good. But as the finale approached in 2015, I guess there was rumors floating around that Don Draper was going to turn out to be D.B. Cooper, which did not happen, but I feel like could have been really awesome if it did. But this caused Boland to want to start looking at the case more. Anyways, Boland put together groups of researchers and scientists to try to convince the FBI to let them test that parachute for DNA, since like things are so advanced. I guess she had it all set up that it would be at no expense to the taxpayer. They would be volunteers that were used to handling evidence and whatnot. She wanted this because obviously, like I said, technologies had changed since 1971, but the FBI refused and still refuses. And Boland is hopeful that this will change and help lead to maybe who D.B. Cooper could be.
Oh.
I know. Why are they refusing? That's interesting, too. But that is the crazy story of D.B. Cooper.
I truly want to believe that he started a new life over somewhere else and that he's possibly even still alive today.
I would love that so much. I think it's just such an interesting case of like, it is almost romanticized a little bit. Even in my head, I'm like this man hijacked a plane and like put people's lives in danger. Whether the bomb was real or not, like we'll never know. We took the briefcase. But it's so cool, kind of.
Yeah. And I like want it to be that he
like me too.
Escaped somewhere and he is living on a beach selling fucking drinks out of coconuts.
Yes.
Living his best life with a tan in a bungalow somewhere.
That would be literally amazing. Also, I just LOL'd at myself when I was doing this research because I don't know if you remember Baddies, but like 2 episodes ago, I was like, if you're sick of the missing person cases, I have a cool one coming up, and D.B. Cooper is missing. So I apologize for that. But this one is a little bit cooler because it's like we don't really know who he is to begin with. He's just like this mystery.
Yes.
Yes.
That was a fun one. And
I kind of liked it.
Wild that my book tied in perfectly to this case.
That was like sister telepathy there. And I'm like so happy that 1, you started the podcast that way. And 2, you were like, oh my God, he was in the book. I'm like, yes.
Well, baddies. I almost forgot we call you guys. Well, baddies. Thank you so much for listening. Wherever you're listening to right now, make sure you're following, make sure you're downloading those episodes, and make sure that you give us a nice review so that way other people can find us. And also you can go to Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and YouTube. And we are at Bloodshed Baddies everywhere.
We also have an email that you can send us case suggestions to, bloodshedbaddies@gmail.com. Our intro music is made by our amazing cousin Vinny. Tell the pilot next time you fly on a plane, and tune in next week for Lexi's episode.
Bye-bye.